Missourians will see a handful of constitutional amendments on their ballots next Tuesday. One would eliminate the state's income tax but implement new sales taxes. Anna Falcon sat down with Governor Mike Kehoe today to get his take on next week's election.
Amendment 5 is not a tax plan. Amendment 5 is a plan to let Missourians keep their income tax.
In an exclusive interview, Governor Mike Kehoe detailed the effects of his #1 priority this year, Amendment 5, a question on Missourians' August ballot that would phase out the income tax and allow lawmakers to implement new sales taxes or raise existing sales taxes to replace the revenue.
It would be a revenue neutral system to where we would take a over 100-year-old sales tax code, update it to our kind of gigabyte economy like many states around us have been, and use that to replace what we now call income tax.
Are there services that you think should be off limits to taxing?
We've been very clear, as long as the General Assembly has said that we wouldn't affect anything that has to do with agriculture, with health care, or with real estate. And I know I joined the members of the General Assembly in saying that that we will stick to our word on that.
As promised, and you just mentioned school funding will be protected. How can you guarantee that?
Well, it's in the constitutional amendment that counties can't use this to affect the level of funding that schools are already getting in those particular counties.
The nonpartisan think tank Missouri Budget Project predicts public schools would lose $1.4 billion under Amendment 5, which averages out to $1,800 per student.
We have funded K through 12 education a record amount in the last 2 years.
$4.3 billion of the more than $50 billion state budget this year is going to public education, but it's $190 million short of what the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education requested. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon.
According to the Missouri Budget Project, the Jackson R2 school district would lose more than $6 million a year under Amendment 5.